Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Asad and today we discuss Introduction to CNS Pharmacology. The learning outcomes of the lecture is to describe the central nervous system neuroregulators, interpret diseases caused by structural and functional deficit in the central nervous system, and to describe the role of neurotransmitter in the pathogenesis of the disease. The reference diseases are schizophrenia, depression, and panic disorder. Neurotransmitter in the central nervous system. Inhibitory postsynaptic potential. When an inhibitory transmitter binds and interacts with a specific receptor on post-junctional membrane, the membrane permeability to potassium and chloride increases. The examples are GABA, glycine, and dopamine. Excitatory postsynaptic potential. When an excitatory transmitter binds and interacts with a specific receptor on post-junctional membrane, the membrane permeability to cation increases. Examples are glutamate and aspartate. Those neurotransmitters which have both inhibitory and excitatory capacity, these are known as acetylcholine, norepinephrine, and the serotonin. This is the neuron and the glia in the central nervous system. Typical structure. The ion channels and the neurotransmitter receptor in the central nervous system. Number 1 is voltage gated ion channel. Number 2 is ligand gated ion channels. Number 3 is metabotrophic receptor. Number 4 is membrane delimited regulation of ion channel by metabotrophic receptors, and the diffusible second messenger mediated regulation of ion channel by metabotrophic receptors. This is the site of action of a neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter must have action potential propagation. A neurotransmitter must be synthesized. It must be stored, metabolize, release, reuptake, and degrade. These 1 to 7 are the specific characteristics to become a neurotransmitter. These are the main neurotransmitter. This is a table like acetylcholine, which acts on muscarinic receptor M1, M2, M3, M4, 5. This acetylcholine is excitatory and inhibitory in nature. Second is dopamine. Dopamine is two types, D1 receptor and D2 receptor. D1 receptor, it is inhibitory in nature. D2 is also inhibitory in nature, but it inhibits presynaptically and postsynaptically. This is the main difference between D1 and D2 receptors. Schizophrenia. For schizophrenia, we have serotonin hypothesis, dopamine hypothesis, and glutamate hypothesis. Dopamine. The major pathway containing dopamine are the projections linking the substantia nigra to the new stratum and the projection linking the ventral tegmental region to limbic structure, particularly the limbic cortex. The therapeutic action of anti-Parkinsonism drug like levodopa is associated with the former area, whereas the therapeutic action of the antipsychotic drug is thought to be associated with the later area. In addition, dopamine containing neurons in the ventral hypothalamus plays an important role in regulating pituitary function. 5 dopamine receptors have been identified and they fell into two categories. D1 like the two type D1 and D5, and D2 like D2, D3 and D4. All dopamine receptors are metabotrophic. Dopamine generally exerts a slow inhibitory action on central nervous system neuron. This action has been best characterized on dopamine containing substantia nigra neurons, whereas D2 receptor activation opens potassium channel via the GI coupling proteins. Schizophrenia. It is a clinical syndrome manifests with psychotic symptoms including hallucinations, delusions, and desired thinking. The pathophysiology of the schizophrenia. The oldest theory associated with the pathophysiology of schizophrenia is the dopamine hypothesis, which proposes that psychosis is caused by excessive dopamine in the brain. This hypothesis dates from the late 1950s after the discovery of chlorpromazine. The first antipsychotic acted as postsynaptic dopamine antagonist. Drugs that cause an increase in dopamine, like cocaine and amphetamines, increase psychotic symptoms, and drugs that decrease dopamine, all current antipsychotic medications, decrease psychotic symptoms. However, data over the past several decades revealed a more complicated picture with both hyperdopaminergic and hypodopaminergic regions in the schizophrenia. Hypodopaminergic activity observed in the prefrontal lobe is thought to be related to the core negative symptoms associated with schizophrenia. Thus, a more modern reworking of the dopamine hypothesis is the dysregulation hypothesis. Dysregulation hypothesis, which takes these findings into account. It is possible, however, that the dopamine abnormalities hypothesized to underlie the etiology of schizophrenia may represent compensatory changes that occur secondary to other pathophysiologic abnormalities intrinsic to illness. Other neurotransmitter systems have also been implicated in schizophrenia. Some investigators have suggested that a combined dysfunction of dopamine and glutamate transmitter system may better explain the disorder. In particular, it is hypothesized that glutamate, possibly through malfunctioning NMDA receptor, impacts dopaminergic activity in brain areas such as mesolimbic and mesocortical pathways. NMDA receptor antagonists such as phencyclidine and ketamine can elicit a state of resembling psychotic symptoms of schizophrenia, including positive, negative, and cognitive symptoms. There has also been a great deal of speculation regarding a role of serotonin receptor antagonism in antipsychotic efficacy. Because many second generation antipsychotics are active at serotonin receptor. Serotonin receptor binding may be important to drug action, possibly by modulating dopamine activity in mesocortical pathway. However, a compelling pathophysiologic theory relating to dopamine and serotonin receptor affinities does not yet exist. It is important to note that to date, antipsychotics without any primary or secondary dopamine modulating properties have been ineffective for the treatment of positive symptoms of schizophrenia. The treatment outcome, the desired treatment outcome, the treatment aimed to reduce symptomatology and psychotic relapses while also improving functional and social outcomes. The mental status examination, it required appearance, speech, mood, affect, thought content, thought processes, cognition, insight, and the judgment of the patient. Non-pharmacological therapy. Psychosocial support is required to aid in the improvement of functional outcomes. Psychosocial interventions aim to boost subjective feelings of self-esteem and life satisfaction. Among the most well supported and promising approaches to psychosocial rehabilitation are social skill trainings, cognitive behavioral therapy, and cognitive remediation. The pharmacological therapy. For years, only first generation antipsychotics, which are known as typical antipsychotics, were available. Since 1990, 9 new antipsychotics have been marketed. These agents are known as atypical antipsychotics, which include the commonly prescribed risperidone, olanzapine, and clozapine. This is a table with the milligram per day dosage and the available dosage form. Second is depression. Depression, it is distinguished by a depressed mood for at least 2 weeks, as well as a loss of interest or pleasure in most activities or both. The pathophysiology, number one cause is the genetics. The first degree relative of major depressive disorder patients are about 3 times more likely to develop major depressive disorder compared with first degree relatives of normal control individual. Adoption studies and twin studies reveal that the familial aggregation of mood major depressive disorder is due to genetic influences. Life stress. Depression can occur in the absence of major life stressors, and conversely major life stressors do not invariably cause depression. Nevertheless, there is an undeniable association between life stresses and the depression, and there appears to be a significant interaction between life stresses and genetic liability in causing depression. Although acute stressor may precipitate depression, chronic stressors have a longer risk period, cause longer episodes, and are more likely to lead to relapse and recurrence. Monoamine neurotransmitter and receptor hypothesis. Classic view as to cause MTD focus on the monoamine transmitters norepinephrine, serotonin, and to a lesser extent dopamine in terms of both synaptic concentrations and receptor function. The monoamine hypothesis asserts that depression is attributable to a deficiency of monoamine neurotransmitters. The major supporting evidence for this hypothesis is that existing antidepressant increases synaptic monoamine concentrations through various mechanisms. One argument against the monoamine hypothesis is that depressed patients do not consistently exhibit decreased monoamine concentration. In addition, monoamine levels are altered within hours of the initiation of antidepressant therapy, but there is a latency period of weeks before the actual antidepressant effect is typically evident. The neurotransmitter receptor hypothesis suggests that depression is related to abnormal functioning of neurotransmitter receptors. In this model, antidepressants presumably exert therapeutic effect by altering receptor sensitivity. In fact, chronic administration of antidepressant has been shown to cause desensitization or downregulation of beta-adrenergic receptor and various serotonin receptors. Importantly, the time required for changes in receptor sensitivity corresponds to the onset of antidepressant effects. Such models of the pathophysiology of depression are assuredly an oversimplification. Depression probably involves a complex dysregulation of monoamine system, and these systems in turn modulate and are modulated by other neurobiological systems. The other neurobiological hypothesis, various other pathophysiologic hypotheses have been proposed. These hypotheses include the role of monoamine neurotransmitter, glutamate and gamma monobutyric acid, neuroendocrine system, for example, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, and neurosteroids, neuronal plasticity, for example, brain drive neurotrophic factors, messenger cascade, and gene expression. The treatment required, the desired outcome is the resolution of the depressive system, return to euthymia. It is the state of living without mood disturbances, prevention of relapse, recurrence of depressive symptoms, prevention of suicide attempts, improvement of the patient's quality of life, normalization of functioning in areas such as work and relationships, avoidance or minimization of adverse effects, and the reduction of healthcare costs. Emotional symptoms are sadness, anhedonia, pessimism, feeling of emptiness, irritability, anxiety, worthlessness, thoughts of death or suicidal ideation. The physical are disturbed sleep, changes in appetite or weight, psychomotor changes, decreased energy, unexplained fatigue, bodily aches or pain. The cognitive symptoms are impaired concentration, indecisiveness, and poor memory. Occasionally, severely depressed patients will also present with psychotic symptoms like hallucination and delusion. Some patients with atypical features of depression, reactive mood, that the mood improve in response to positive events, significant increase in appetite/weight gain, hypersomnia, heavy feeling in the arms or leg, sensitivity to instant personal rejection. The non-pharmacological therapy, interpersonal therapy, and cognitive behavioral therapy are psychotherapies that have well documented efficacy in the treatment of major depressive disorders. Electroconvulsive therapy is a highly efficacious treatment for MDD. Light therapy is an alternative treatment for depression associated with seasonal winter exacerbations. Vagal nerve stimulation, which has approved by FDA in 2005. Transcranial magnetic stimulation is a non-invasive and well-tolerated procedure that is FDA approved for use after one failed trial of an antidepressant. The antidepressants are monoamine oxidase inhibitors, serotonin reactive inhibitors, norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, dopamine reuptake inhibitors, alpha-2 adrenergic receptor blockade, serotonin 2A and serotonin 2C receptor blockade, and serotonin 3 receptor blockade, and histamine H1 receptor blockade. These are the SRI drugs, norepinephrine receptor inhibitors, dopamine reuptake inhibitors, as we discussed previously. This is the antidepressant in adult patients, monoamine oxidase inhibitors, tricyclic antidepressants, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, NDRs, and serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. The panic disorder. It is characterized by frequent episodes of panic or fear. Patients with panic disorder are more likely to experience stimulant-like side effects of antidepressants. Antidepressants should be initiated at lower doses in patients with panic disorder. The pathophysiology. The pathophysiology of panic disorder, the thalamus and amygdala are important in generation of a normal fear response and play a central role in most anxiety disorder. The nervous system requires a mechanism to detect a potential threat, evaluate and respond in a defensive or evasive manner. The thalamus provides the first real processing region to organize sensory data obtained from the environment. It passes information to higher cortical centers for final processing and to the amygdala for rapid assessment of highly charged emotional information. The amygdala provides emotional valence or the emotional importance of this information. This helps the organism to act quickly and ambiguous but vital events. The cortex then performs a more detailed analysis and sends updates to the amygdala for comparison and any needed course correction, thus enabling a decision on a course of action. Anxiety becomes an anxiety disorder when the fear response system leads to maladaptive behavior or distress. Anxiety can become independent of stimuli as in panic disorder, be associated with benign stimuli as in phobias, or continue beyond the stimulus duration as in GAD. The precise mechanism by which these changes occur is still unknown, but much has been discovered regarding how this may be regulated by treatment. Direct and indirect connection to the reticuloendothelial system in regions spanning the medulla, pons and midbrain help to regulate arousal, vigilance and fear. These connections are modulated by serotonin and norepinephrine, which have their primary origin in the reticuloendothelial system. Amygdala sends projection to the hypothalamus, thus influencing the autonomic nervous system to affect heart rate, blood pressure, and stress associated changes. It also influences hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, leading to a cascade of stress hormone. One such hormone is cortisol. If elevated for prolonged period, can damage the brain and other organs. These are important targets in our understanding of how amygdala regulates the fear response. Noradrenergic system. Norepinephrine producing cell reside primarily in the region of brain called locus coeruleus (LC). Increased activity in this region is associated with an increase in arousal, anxiety and panic. Whereas drugs such as yohimbine that increase activity in the LC can be anxiogenic. Drugs that decrease activity in the LC appears to improve anxiety. Furthermore, dysregulation of this region is implicated by elevated levels of norepinephrine or its metabolite in subjects with GAD, panic disorder, and specific phobias. Serotonergic system. The rave nucleus and the resident cell bodies of serotonin producing neurons have a complicated role related to anxiety symptoms. Activity of serotonin cell in the rave nucleus over time inhibits firing of noradrenergic cell in the LC. Other influences include their ability to regulate cells in the prefrontal cortex and amygdala. Perhaps the strongest evidence for the involvement of serotonergic system in the success of serotonin reuptake inhibitor in the treatment of anxiety disorder. Gamma aminobutyric acid. GABA plays an important role as an inhibitory neurotransmitter. The effects of GABA are non-specific and its role is complex. GABAergic drugs are used for acute anxiety reduction, but the lack of a specific target for their effect leads to multiple undesirable effects. Current research is focused on defining receptor subtypes that may allow for greater specificity in targeting anxiety symptoms. Hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. The HP axis provides a critical mechanism for regulation of stress response and its effect on brain and other organ systems. Several important hormones including corticotropin releasing hormone and cortisol are involved in this pathway. These hormones regulate the effects of anxiety on the body and provide positive feedback to the brain. A cycle of anxiety and sensitization by such feedback could, if unchecked, result in escalation of the symptom. Neuropeptides may provide one mechanism to balance positive and negative feedback, helping to minimize such escalation. Neuropeptides. Several neuropeptides are under current investigation and their role in anxiety disorder. Important neuropeptides include neuropeptide Y, NYP, substance P, and cholecystokinin. NYP appears to have a role in reducing the effect of stress hormones and inhibiting activity of the LC. Both mechanisms have contributed to the anxiolytic property seen experimentally. Substance P may have anxiolytic and antidepressant properties partly because of its effect on corticotropin releasing hormone. Feeling dizzy or lightheaded, feeling of unreality and being detached from oneself, fear of dying, numbness or tingling sensation, chills or hot flushes. Desired outcome to reduce the severity and the duration of anxiety symptoms, restore overall functioning. The non-pharmacological therapy is psychoeducation, exercise, stress management, and psychotherapy. These are the antidepressant drugs used for panic disorder, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor, and tricyclic antidepressants.